The 10th Doctor's two-part regeneration story, The End of Time, is one of the most large-scale regenerations the show has ever seen. Featuring the return of the Doctor's arch-nemesis, the Master, cameos from all of the companions from the new series, and the return of Gallifrey. It's hard to imagine a story more fitting for the 10th Doctor to go out on, especially for such an audience-favourite Time Lord. But originally, there were plans for a much more low-key affair for David Tennant's swan song. Today, we're going to discuss what it would have looked like, why it wasn't made, and ask the question, which would have been better? When creating ideas for David Tennant's regeneration, Russell T Davies originally envisioned a much more smaller scale story than what came to pass. This was for one major reason. They were unsure if his regeneration would be only one episode or two. Having a 1 hour special compared to 2 hours over 2 episodes means that you can't fit as much plot. So, Russell developed 2 ideas for each eventuality. In talking to Benjamin Cook in The Writer's Tale, he outlined his vision for what this 1 episode story would have looked like. The Doctor visits the Ood's planet and is told that his next journey is his last. He returns to the TARDIS and reluctantly pulls the lever. Kronk? Where is his final destination? Where will he go to die? He lands on a derelict spaceship in the middle of nowhere. There are 4 people on board, a family of blue aliens. They're just ordinary people. Not anything special, and that's the point. They're just like everyone else, deserving of life. The spaceship is leaking radiation and it's slowly killing them all. Someone has to go into the engine room to absorb the radiation, to let everyone else live. The father of the family is willing to give his life, but the Doctor knows if he dies, the family loses a father. The Doctor, on the other hand, has no one. The Doctor screams at them. Why should he give up his life for them? But the Doctor knows he must. By venting their engines, it creates Earth's sun, and in turn, the solar system. The Doctor is stuck in the engine room, dying. But he can rest knowing that his sacrifice goes on to create life. Because for the Doctor, death is only the beginning. He returns to the TARDIS to say goodbye to all of his friends he's met along the way. In the TARDIS, he utters those immortal words, "I don't want to go." Even though Russell liked this concept, he knew it would feel quite anticlimactic for the audience. Although the intention for the story was for it to be a small scale, you can imagine the press coverage being a bit confusing for audiences. He says in The Writer's Tale, "You're expecting the ultimate battle for the universe, and what you get is a creaky old cargo ship filled in oh-so-familiar South Wales factories." Ultimately, Russell and Ben both discussed in The Writer's Tale that it would have been strange to pitch this smaller scale story to David Tennant, saying that it wouldn't have felt like the big send-off that they would expect. So it isn't a massive surprise that it was decided to bring back the Doctor's arch-nemesis, the Master, for his regeneration, and have it spread over 2 episodes. Russell still didn't want to give up on this one-part story, and he tried to make it work by setting it in the middle of a big space war to give it that sense of scale that it was missing. But still, it wasn't really enough. On first glance, I think the story, once fleshed out, would be really effective. Especially for an incarnation who is very egotistical, it would work on a character level for him to finally let that part of him go. I think ultimately, the themes Russell wished to include in this original concept do make their way into the final story. By saving Wilf in a similar way to the family in the original concept, you still get this grandstanding speech of self-importance and sacrifice. But I think because the audience knows Wilf, maybe that emotional punch is stronger. Whereas we don't really know if the family would have been likable. I think The End of Time has set a precedent that the Doctor's regeneration has to be the biggest story ever, which I feel has become a detriment. The theme of every villain ever returning has been in Matt Smith's episode and Jodie Whittaker's Regeneration, and I just sometimes feel like telling a smaller story might be the better alternative. Christopher Eccleston's Regeneration episode is a great example of this. A story that was built up throughout his season, facing off his arch nemesis, the Daleks, after the Time War. It just works, and his regeneration is short but powerful. It isn't overdone. Once it becomes this massive, grandstanding speech, I find it more difficult to enjoy it. I enjoyed Jodie's regeneration scene because it was simple and sweet, even if it did include a random callback to a John Pertwee line that is just so out of place. She still sells the moment and makes it work. I wonder if the original concept for the End of Time was created, if it would have changed how regenerations were done for future Doctors. Would Matt Smith's Doctor end on a smaller note? Would the Trenzalore battle be a more intimate affair? The idea of the Doctor defending one planet until his dying days is beautiful, but can sometimes get bogged down in a million other ideas. I like the idea of Doctor Who focusing on one really great idea rather than a bunch of extra ideas stacked on top. It just becomes bloated. The original concept for David's regeneration feels even closer to a classic series regeneration episode. Doctor's final episodes sometimes feel very low-key throughout the original run, even to the point where William Hartnell doesn't even appear in one of the episodes, and then just says he's feeling a bit shit and disappears into the snow. Or when the Sixth Doctor falls over when the TARDIS is hit by the Rani's ship. But some classic series regenerations do feel bigger, like the Fifth Doctor's in the case of Androzani, where he is poisoned and gives the last remaining cure to his companion Peri. Either way, I remember first seeing The End of Time and absolutely loving it, crying like a baby, especially since the 10th Doctor was my first Doctor. It's not my favourite regeneration story anymore, but it was for a very long time. Sorry, editing Josh here. The reason why I don't love this story as much as I once did is that I feel like it does a disservice to the show as a whole. The 10th Doctor decries how once he regenerates, a new man takes over that isn't him. It tells the audience that after David Tennant's gone, that's it. The next Doctor is just some other guy. I think it totally works in character for the 10th Doctor to say this, since his Doctor had a massive ego. But if we're looking at Doctor Who as a brand, it's not really setting up the next era in a kind way. I feel like Deep Breath tried to do the opposite. Maybe to the extreme, having the 11th Doctor call Clara to convince her that Capaldi's Doctor is the same man. But in the end of the day, if the audience is attached to a particular Doctor and isn't very fond of the new one, no amount of dialogue is going to change their mind. So ultimately, there isn't anything wrong with the Doctor saying this, and I've just kind of gone on a tangent just to explain my comment. Sorry, back to the video. It's hard to imagine David Tennant getting another regeneration apart from this one. Well, except for the Stolen Earth, and the Giggle, and the one in that Big Finish audio and Dalek universe. Damn, this dude never stops regenerating. Get a job! But what do you think? Would you have preferred a more low-key regeneration story for the 10th Doctor? Or do you just adore The End of Time as it is? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Josh Nares YouTube channel. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Josh Nares YouTube channel.